Okay, we are live. Hit the video on this one. Beautiful. All right. Welcome, everyone. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Wednesday night Sefer Yetzirah-Class, where we delve into the deepest secrets of creation in the very first book of Kabbalah ever written, Sefer Yetzirah. And let's hop right in. It's very interesting. We are on our 11th class, and we've covered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 words of the Sefer Yetzirah in 11 classes. Each class is about 45 minutes long. I know I say this every time, but I just find it fascinating that we're not even past the first sentence. And we've had 11 classes already. Okay. No one else is impressed by that. I am. I think it's amazing. But tough crowd tonight. Okay. So let me just open up with the beginning sentence of where we're holding right now. V'shloshim v'shtayim netivot pliot chokmah hakek yud-hei. Havaya tzavaot Elohai Yisrael Elohei Chaim Melech Olam. We'll continue on. I'm not going to go through it. With 32 mystical paths of wisdom engraved Yah, Yud-hei. And that's where we left off in last class. And just to give just a 2-minute recap, because I made a video of it. I got to post it. I just found it as a fascinating class that we spoke about this idea of Yud and Hey, of why the Sefer Yetzirah, instead of using God's full name, Yud Hey Vav Hey, just uses the 2 first letters of God's name, Yud and Hey. So we know the tetragrammaton Yud Hey Vav Hey is the Yud is Chokhmah, the Hey is Bina, the Vav is Zah, and the last Hey is Malchus. So the Yud and the Hey is Chokhmah and Bina. And that is pretty much everything we've been talking about throughout the last 11 classes, about the interplay between masculine and feminine energy, which is the whole foundation of not only the Sefer Yetzirah, but of all of creation, because the masculine energy represents light or spirituality, and the feminine energy represents a vessel or physicality. Masculine energy being God, physical energy being the Jewish people and the world. And this is the life journey of how we balance these energies together, which are 2 opposite energies. So the Yud, we know, is gematria of 10. There's 10. Yud is the numerical equivalent of 10, and the Hey numerical equivalent of 5. And we spoke about just in the Hebrew language that Yud, if you put a Yud before something, it's showing future tense. So the fact that the Yud or Chokhmah has 10, gematria 10, is showing that all 10 sfirot, which is Chokhmah, Bina, Das, Chesed, Gevor, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yisod, and Malchus, are potential inside of the Yud. Meaning that energy, that seed, whether it's a physical seed that's coming out of a man, or a spiritual seed, or an energy coming to all of us that we're using for anything in the world, has the potential to have completion. Meaning any thoughts, any idea, any goal, anything we set out to do, baked into that seed is the potential for success. Just like when you put a seed into the ground. That seed has the potential to become a tree or plant, whatever the case may be. But that's where the Hey comes into being. Because the masculine energy of the Yud has all 10 sfirot, meaning it has the potential for fulfillment. But without connecting with the Hey, without the seed going into the egg or into the ground or into the idea, into an action, whatever it is, it's like taking an actual seed and throwing it in the air. Nothing's going to happen. And that's why Hey, which is the gematria of 5, 5 represents the hand. There's 5 fingers. And also in Hebrew, before you put Hey in front of something, it makes it a specific object, right? If you say kos, it's a cup. If you say hakos, it's the cup, meaning this cup. Meaning that when that Yud enters into the Hey, that energy has to be channeled into a specific vessel. So when we have a thought in our mind about doing something, it could be a business, it could be calling someone, it could be a good deed, it could be anything. If that doesn't go into action and a specific deed is just nothing. It's like throwing seeds in the air. And that's why the Yud and the Hey have to couple. That energy has to be focused and channeled into a specific vessel, into something that can contain it. And then together, the vessel and the light can grow into a metzias, into a reality. So just a little bit of an insight into why the Sefer Yetzirah chooses the letter Yud Hey instead of God's entire name. Okay. We're going to carry on to the next a few words in the Sefer Yetzirah, which are, it says engraved Yud Hey, and then it says after that, the Lord of Hosts. Havaya Tsevaot. Two names of God. Then it goes into Yud Hey Vav Hey, which is one of God's names, the Tetragrammaton, as they call it in English, and Tsevaot, which literally means the God of hosts. It's one of God's names that denote a specific energy that God channels into the world. We know that God is infinite and he's above any type of name. The only reason that we have a name is for other people. If we lived alone in the world and there's no one else but us, we don't need a name unless you're schizophrenic. You don't have the need to call yourself because it's only you. We have a name so we can relate to other people. God is above names. He's infinite. The second you describe him, you're limiting who he is. But God channels his energy through multiple names, right? So like Yud He Vav He, this is God's name of Havaya, which denotes Rachamim or mercy. Adnei is more of a name of judgment, of din. So every one of God's names is how he channels his energy into the world. So this particular name that the Sefer Yetzirah uses now, Tsevaot, has a specific energy, which we'll talk about now. So it says Tsevaot literally means God of hosts, in English. So it says this name usually designates the Sfirot, which are associated with revelation and prophecy. They are Netzach and Hod. Netzach and Hod represent respectively the right leg and the left leg, which are connected to prophecy. It says that these are the energies that kind of balance. So if we look at the Chesed and Gevurah energy, which is the masculine and feminine energy once it travels to our brain and to our emotions, that is how much masculine and feminine energy have to be balanced to go into Tiferet. So you're not too kind, but not too strict. Like you don't want to be overly kind. You don't want to be overly strict. You have to balance that energy. Netzach and Hod, which represent the two legs, basically are how much Netzach is how much, we were just talking about this before, how much do I have to do? How much do I need to focus on winning, on victory and success and getting to this goal? And Hod is how much I have to let go and praise Hashem and thank Hashem and allow Hashem to enter. It's how much legs, literally, that's how you walk, right? That's how you move. So how much do I have to move and how much do I have to chill? How much do I have to say, God's got this? And how much do I have to say, I need to do it, right? The right leg, Netzach, the inner energy is bitachon, is trust. I remember I was going through a challenging period in my life, and I met with Rabbi Paltiel in Crown Heights to talk to him about it. And he gave me a mimer from the Frierdiker Rebbe, and I brought him I don't remember where I brought it down. And I'm like, how do I know like what is the right path? Because there's different places in the Torah where we learn about different holy people in their journey who had different levels of trust, right? So there's situations, or I can't remember all the individual situations where it's like, okay, you go out to war and you go to fight your enemies, but at some point in time, you trust that God's going to defeat them. But, you know, like David HaMelech, but he's actually doing the fighting. Then you have like extreme bitachon, which is King Eskiel, right? Who literally was surrounded by like thousands of enemy soldiers, and he went to sleep. Surrounding, like ready to attack him, and everyone's waiting for him to like call out these battle plans and go out and fight. He said, God, you got this, I'm going to sleep. That's like an extreme. It's like someone's coming out with a sword, and you're like, I'm fine, you go to sleep. God, take care of it. Like, like there's so many different levels of this right leg of Netzach, which is bitachon. How do you know where to channel it? And there's no answer. The answer is basically, you got to be honest with yourself. Are you really holding at a level that you can go to sleep with complete trust and confidence that God's got this? If you do, then you have nothing to worry about. But if you're sleeping and your heart's pounding and you're scared to death that maybe he doesn't have it, that's not the right path for you. You better pick up your sword and go out to the battlefield, right? Like, so this is a journey in life to get to this level of what point of trust do I put in God? I always have to put trust in God, but how much am I working towards my role in this versus how much am I totally letting go, which is the Hod, surrender, splendor, however they want to, the words that are used for it, and praising God. You know, God's got this. I don't have to act anymore. And this is the dance of life, as we were talking about. It's a dance. Like, how do you dance with your legs, right? It's like you step forward, you go back. Like, you know, how do you know? Sometimes you lead, sometimes you follow. This is how a dance works. And this is that energy of the Netzach and Hod, of how much you go in, how much you trust God. And that's awesome. Someone joins the shir, and his YouTube name is Bong, James Bong. Yes, knowledge and understanding also 100% discern these things. But the idea is that knowledge and understanding are an intellectual capacity, right? So with our Chokhmah, Bina, and Das, we're intellectually taking that energy and bringing it down into our emotional attributes of what to do with it. Then the emotional attributes take over. And then at that point in time, they've got to figure out how to bring that energy into the world, how to take it out of you and share it with others. And that is your behavior patterns. And that's why Netzach and Hod are right before Yisod. Yisod is where that energy kind of comes into what we say foundation. And then Malchus is how it enters the world. So all the time this process is happening, unbeknownst to us, whether we're working, whether in a romantic relationship, in a friendship relationship, how much am I giving? How much am I letting go? How much effort am I putting? How much am I trying? And this is the dance, right? This is the dance of balancing these two energies. So it says over here that this name, Havai, Tzivaot, also contains the tetragrammaton, Yud He Vav He, here translated as Lord. The tetragrammaton designates the totality of all the sefirot. Hence the phrase Yud He Vav He, Lord of hosts, because it says both of God's names together. Yud He Vav He, which is all of the sefirot and all of the worlds from Atzilus, Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiya, all the way down from intellectual to emotional to action. And at the same time, it also says Tzivaot, hosts, which is, as we said, Netzach and Hod. So Yud He Vav He of hosts actually represents all the sefirot as they're revealed to man. This is the reason for the designation of Yud He Vav He of hosts, Tzivaot. It refers to revelation, the state in which God associates himself with beings that are lower than himself, namely his hosts. Meaning how much God is, one of the things we learn about humility is from God himself. You have an infinite God who creates every single thing. Right now, there's 8 billion people in the world, and God knows how many trillions of angels and spiritual beings floating around, and God knows how many universes and galaxies. And God is intimately aware of every single detail of all of it simultaneously. Like imagine just like driving down 95 and knowing just in a small microcosm of the thousands of cars that are driving by, everything they're thinking, everything they're doing. Now imagine that times 8 billion. Like it's insane if you think about it, like the capacity of what's God. We can't begin to comprehend. And yet he lowers himself to creation. He brings himself down to this physical world and says, I want a real meaningful relationship with you, with a flesh and blood person who's going to make mistakes, who's going to screw up, who's going to make the wrong decisions, who's going to ask me for forgiveness, and sometimes not. Sometimes going to do completely opposite of what I want them to do. And no matter what they do, I'm still there for them, and I still want that meaningful relationship for them. That's like the ultimate humility, right? Like someone who, a godly entity who just wants to have individual relationships with us. And it teaches this ability of us how we have to what is called tzimtzum, or contract our energy sometimes to be able to give time, money, assistance to people that maybe we would not really even look at twice. Or maybe we look at someone and be like, how are they dressed that way? Or like, how could you say such a thing? Like most of the time when we're judging someone else, we're judging them against ourselves. It's an egotistical thing of looking at someone and being like, how can they do that? I would never do that. Like, what does that mean? Like, you're God, so if you wouldn't do it, that means that they're doing it, so they're a bad person, or they're wrong, or this or that. Like, we're always framing ourselves against other people. And it's the same thing with like pity. It's like, oh, I feel so bad for that person. Like, what does that mean? That's making yourself feel better about yourself because they're in a worse situation. If you feel bad about them, then go help them. Go do something. Like this person needs help, go help them. Let's sit there and pity. These are all ego tools that are reflecting ourselves. We see the world not as it is, but as we are. And the idea is to clear that ego out of the way. And this is where humility comes into play. And this is where sometimes God gives us an awakening of that humility by he checks us sometimes, right? In situations, and sometimes we have difficulties and we get through them, and it just makes us stronger, but it's making us more humble. It's making us, realize that we're not the whole focal point of the world. And the whole entire world does not act based on how we think they should or how we act. So this is humility. This is where God says he's revealing himself to things that are below him. So the Talmud says, the first person to use this designation, Lord of Hosts, was Hannah. When she prayed, O Lord of Hosts, Havayat Tzevaot, if you will look at the affliction of your servant. This is brought down in the prophet Shmuel. This is the first place where it has this word that it's saying. Okay, that's all it says about that. No more explanation. So we could take what we want from that statement where it says, O Lord of Hosts, if you will look at the affliction of your servant. The way I'm framing this is that she's basically saying, you are an infinite God, and you're so powerful, you're so amazing. Have mercy, like look at me, who am I? I'm nothing. Not like, how can you do this to me? Oh, why are you doing like screaming at God, like somehow that we feel that God owes us something, but as putting our head down of humility and being like, God, who am I? I'm your simple servant. I'm no one. And look at me. Like they say, when you ask God for something, don't go there like, God, look what I'm doing for you. I mean, come on. Like I did this today. I did this today. It's like, go as like a beggar, like a simple servant. I'm nothing. I have no merit. I have nothing. I shouldn't even be in this world. But I'm your child, I'm your son. Have mercy on me. Like, please help me. Like, well, I'm a nobody. I'm a nothing. Like when we come with this, like this gaiva, like God owes us something. And like it's, look what I did. Now you do for me, right? Like I get this a lot from people like, are you kidding me? I took upon myself to put on tefillin. I did it all month and my life got harder. Screw this. I'm not doing this anymore. You showed God, you taught him a lesson. You're like, well, what is that? It's often when we start doing good, we get more tested. It's the opposite, because when we're bringing good energy, you're doing more good, that forces of energy that are against good are going to step in and try to stop us from doing it. So it's this dance. The relationship we have with God is the most real, authentic relationship that exists. It's the highest level of a relationship before we get married, before we have friends, before we have parents. Our soul exists above as part of God. Up there, there's no family or like friend. It's just us and God in that relationship. And when we come down into this physical world, the goal is to reestablish that relationship. And it's a real relationship. In other words, imagine if you had like a good friend and you only called him when you needed something. All right. At some point in time, he's going to be like, bro, you only call me when you have problems, when you need something. But people do that with God all the time. It's like, what's God? Okay. He creates me. Okay. So whatever, we ignore, we go about our life. And when there's trouble or we need help, God, can you help us? Like, okay. So God relates to us how we relate to him. But when it comes in a sincere relationship and with humility of turning to Hashem and listen, you're my father, right? This is the idea when we say, when we get to Elul and we say, Yud Gimel Midas Harachamim, we say Avinu Malkeinu all the time. If you look at the Avinu Malkeinu prayer, what is the first word? Avinu Malkeinu. He's our father and he's our king. But first and foremost, he's our father. But that doesn't mean that we just take it for granted and we become spoiled, and he's our father and we just turn to him with demands and wants. He's our king, so we want to do as a child what he wants of us because we're also his servant. So it's this duality of this relationship. But we always have to remember that God is our father, and to come to him in a healthy relationship, which is not always so healthy and so obvious between a parent and a child, where a child comes with sincerity. Imagine like your child comes in like, I want you to buy me this. Why? I cleaned up my room yesterday and I deserve to have this. You're like, get the hell out of here. But your child comes and says, listen, how about, I love you. I'm really trying. And, this is hard. Can you please help me with something? Like, yes. What is it that you need? Right? Like, this is the relationship. It's a relationship with humility that God is coming. When we come to God with humbleness, he comes to us with humbleness. And this is the idea of Sevaot. And this is what it says. When Hannah said, if you will look at the affliction of your servant, meaning like, I'm suffering, I'm going through a hardship right now. And all she's saying is, just look at me, God. I'm nobody, I'm nothing. Just look at me. She's not coming with this very, attitude of an ego of like demanding of God. It's just she's awakening that energy in Tziva'ot of God lowering himself. Because when we lower ourselves and put our head down to God, guess what happens? It comes down to us. It's a mirror. Our relationship with God is like a real mirror. And just like a husband and wife relationship, or two best friends, or a teacher and a student, there's got to be an energy flow. There has to be a fairness, a negotiation of we're in this together, right? Like let's have this dance. And unfortunately, it's usually not with God. Usually it doesn't come to that. Hi. Okay, so continue on. It says, God of Israel. This is connected to the Lord of hosts, Tziva'ot. While revelation in general is to all of God's hosts, in particular, it's granted to Israel. As we shall see, the name of Israel is closely associated with the 231 gates. We're going to talk about that in a second. The Hebrew word for God here is Elohim. This alludes to understanding, the concept that divides and delineates. That's the Bina consciousness. So let's just unpack this a little bit. So the main way that God relates to all of his creation is through the Jewish people. The reality of it is that if the entire Jewish people collectively decided that they're going to keep one Shabbat, Mashiach would come after that Shabbat. Just think about that for a second. After the 6-day war, the, whatever you want to call it, the government of Israel, the state of Israel, the Erev Rav who's running Israel, basically stood up and said, in 6 days, we defeated our enemy because we have a superior army and superior intelligence and superior weaponry. And it's like, seriously? That's not what you want. The Lubavitcher Rebbe said, at that moment, if the prime minister of Israel would have stood up and announced to the world after the 6-day war, this is the hand of God. God is with the Jewish people, and God is the one who was victorious in this war for us. Mashiach would have came right then. Because it's showing humility. It's showing to Hashem, we're here. You said you're going to blow me a kiss. You didn't blow me a kiss. Okay. Okay. You too. Yeah, that's lacha. So this is the humility. That's going to come closer now. It's no more. Okay. This is the humility. When we approach God with this humility, he relates to us with the same humility. The 231 gates we spoke about, which we're going to speak about extensively because this is like one of my favorite Kabbalistic concepts. Interesting enough, on my Monday night Mashiach Shir, we talked about these 231 gates because the Rebbe brought it up in this week's Sikha. And I just want to pause because they say when you're learning two completely different areas of Torah and the same concept comes up in both, it's a big hashgacha pratis that God is like kind of revealing the same message in multiple sources. I want to see if I could find it really quickly, just a diagram, because this is like one of my favorite aspects of the Sefer Yetzirah. I don't want to spend so much time looking for it because we will get to it when we get to it. But, here it is. So this is like really trippy. So these are the 231 gates, okay? This diagram has every little Hebrew letter in it. So from Aleph to Taf. Every letter combines with every other letter. So you have Aleph to Aleph, Aleph to Beit, Aleph to Gimel, all the way to Taf. And then you go to Beit, Beit to Aleph, Beit to Beit, Beit to Gimel, Beit. Each one of those letters forms a circular, I don't even know what this is, an energy source. And there's 231 gates, meaning there's 231 potential combinations of all of the Hebrew letters. Every single aspect of all of creation is brought into being from these 231 combinations. They're called the 231 gates. And it says that the Jewish people are closely related to the 231 gates. From above to the energy from Shemaim into earth. All of creation channels through these 231 gates. So as the Sefer Yetzirah says now, that the name Israel, which we're going to speak about, is closely related to these 231 gates. I don't want to jump ahead. We'll deal with that when we get there. But there's a lot of deep stuff about that. So the idea is that the general way that God created the world is that he sent us down, the Jewish people, to be his representatives, his emissaries on earth. It deserves a whole share and whole forbidden in and of itself, because there's a lot of depth to it. Yes.
Does it say that in Quran?
Say what?
That God sent the Jews?
Yeah, sure.
It does?
Yeah, 100%. In many places written. It's called, we are learning about it in Imre Bina. It's the, I'm pretty sure, yeah. I mean, it's brought down in multiple Kabbalistic and Hasidic sources. It's called, it escaped my second phrase, Machshava Keduma Da'ak, which is the very first primordial thought that arose in God's will to create. Yeah, I'll just talk about it briefly because it's really deserves a whole class in and of itself. But it's kind of hard to simplify this. But God existed in and of himself with nothing or no one else. He was in a state of perfection. So God, in his infinite being, had always the potential to create. The sphirot, or the energy sources, that the 10 sphirot, that we have 10 sphirot, right? This is Chokmah, Bina, Das, Chesed, Gavor, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, and Malchus. All this energy that God channels into the world exists within him. Because God has infinite sphirot within him. It's nothing you could see. It's something that's kind of like baked into the DNA. I'm using human terms that God doesn't apply, just so we can make sense of it. So God always had the potential within him to create. He didn't need to create because he's perfect. He doesn't need to reveal that potential, but it's there. Just like if God chose right now that he doesn't want the world to exist anymore, the 10 utterances that God used to create the world are hanging in the firmament above in the spiritual worlds. And from them, it channels into these 231 gates. And let's say, for example, God forbid, God just says, I'm done. I don't want this world to exist anymore. Everything would disappear into nothingness. We would all just disappear into nothingness. The entire world and all the universe would just go right back into God and cease existence. From God's perspective, there's no creation. It says, Ani lo shoniti. I was the same before, and I'm the same after. God's God. He's perfect. He's a complete perfection. For us, there's a whole world, there's a whole creation, all this stuff. Correct. But if he has a desire to change his mind, which he's not, but so that's the idea. The idea is God's. So it's a very good question, and there's multiple levels of it, and it's an in-depth conversation. It's hard to, because it's hard to like explain this whole process of creation in a few minutes, right? But generally speaking, there's many sources that are brought down in Kabbalah and Hasidus as to why God created the world. One example is that so his creation should come to know him and appreciate him. One is that he has the ability to create. And if he doesn't use that ability, then it's almost like he's not fulfilling his potential, so to speak. Because if you can do something and you don't do it, then something's... another example... Yeah, right. Another example that's given is he wanted what we call a dir b'taktonim, a dwelling place below. So the Rebbe Rashab in the Hemshek Samik Vav actually goes through each one of these reasons that we're giving throughout different Kabbalistic masters of why God created the world. And I don't want to say God refutes them or says they're wrong. He's just brought us to a higher level of awareness or consciousness and said the ultimate reason that God created the world is tainug, which is pleasure. When it comes to pleasure, there's no logic. What's your favorite ice cream flavor? Mint chocolate chip. I can't convince you that strawberry is better than mint chocolate. It's not gonna. You're like, no, it's not gonna. It's impossible to happen because that's something that talks to you. That's what gives you pleasure, right? Like, there's certain things that have pleasure that it's beyond logic. Tainug comes from Panemius Keter, comes from the inner dimension of the sphere of Keter, which is the crown. So, God, all right, stay with me for a minute, then because I know it's a lot. So, God ultimately, it brings him pleasure to bring us into a world that conceals him when we reveal him. Right. When we choose to do the right thing and reveal godly energy versus the selfish thing of what we want, that causes pleasure for God. It's called a nachas ruach, a pleasurable spirit. We don't understand why. So ultimately what God said is, I want to bring this pleasure into the world, and I want to share this pleasure with others, and I want them to experience the pleasure of me. So it says in what we call is the level of Makshava Keduma Da'ak, the primordial first thought of creation. When that arose in God's thoughts, that's the source of the souls of the Jewish people. The 600,000 root souls of the Jewish people are what arose in God's thought when he first started considering creating. At that moment, the Jewish people were created. And at that moment, it says that God he conferred with the tzaddikim whether or not he should create the world. And at that moment, and again, I'm making this in personal conversation. That's not how it went. But picture this: God in of himself takes out 600,000 root souls from himself and says, okay, here's my idea. I want to create a physical world, and I want to send you down there into physical bodies. And this world is going to be very challenging and very difficult. People are going to hate you. They're going to stop you. They're going to do everything possible to prevent you and distract you from doing your job. Your job is to reveal my energy in a world that conceals my energy. And how are you going to do that? I'm giving you a Torah. I'm giving you an instruction manual. And when you get down there, every time you learn Torah, every time you eat kosher food, every time you do what I'm telling you to do, you're going to reveal more of my energy in the world. And the day is going to come that I'm going to reveal myself in the world. And I'm going to reward you for all your work. And I'm going to punish all the nations of the world who are trying to harm you and destroy you from doing your work. Because I'm going to send them down there to test you, to make it hard for you, to give you oppositions. But I'm not giving them permission to, God forbid, destroy you, harm you, do all the things that they're doing to us nonstop. And I will judge them, and I will return to the world, and I will reveal myself, and we will live forever in a physical world. Are you up for the challenge? And Jewish people said, yeah.
Apparently, I said yeah.
So this, by the way, that's why it says, we just learned the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos where it says, against your will you're created, against your will you die, and against your will you will give an accounting to the King of Kings, blessed be. In other words, when we open the Yom Kippur prayer, and when we do the Kol Nidre prayer, the first thing we do is we take out the Torahs and we are asking forgiveness. We're denouncing the oath we made. Because every single soul, before it comes into this world, makes an oath to God, I will be righteous, I will not be wicked. Righteous means I will follow your Torah. Wicked means I'm not going to follow your Torah. Even no matter what you test me with, God, I'm still going to do this. And we take that oath. In fact, not only do we have, always remember when you're talking about the Jewish people, you have Klalit and you have Pratit. You have Am Yisrael, which is a nation, and you have each one of us as individual Jews. So we took a collective agreement of all of our souls to go into the world. That's why we have Gilgulim. That's why souls continue to reincarnate until they fix up the mission of the previous souls that existed. So in that upper world, before our souls come into the world, not only do we take the general agreements, but we each sign contracts. Every one of us signed a contract and said, God, test me. And the bigger the souls, the harder their lives are. And that's why it's like, I got the chills, like Hodaya and I, since I've been working with the youth now for 16 years, and for the first 8-10 years, I'm like, what am I doing with these people? Like, they went to yeshiva and seminary, they understand Torah, they know what is God. Like, bring me people who have no connection to Torah. Let me excite them. This is not exciting. And they're like, I've heard it, I know it, leave me alone. Like, they're traumatized by you. They're traumatized by Judaism. I'm like, I still don't know what I'm doing here, but with the center, but that's a different story. The point of the matter is that every person that I've met in this, and every guy, every girl who has some of the most difficult challenges in our generation are the highest, loftiest, holiest souls. Because the highest, loftiest soul, the less of the risk takers, like, you know, you told us about like a journey you did the other day, and it was like, how did I do this? I went to the other end, and I buy my, like, that takes courage, right? Because your soul has a big courage. The souls that maybe said, it's not for me, I want to play the safe route. So bring me into a very good family, from home, no tests, no difficulties. Like, have you ever talked to these people about trauma? Like, I don't know what you're talking about. I had a perfect childhood. Like, you.
Or it could also be their neshama's already thought through so much of their.
It could be. It could be.
They're at the limit.
It could be. Or they could be in denial. Who knows? But when someone is going through difficult tests, we basically signed a contract above and said, God, bring it on. You want to put me in a home of drug addict parents? You want to put me in an abusive home? Like, I'm going to find my way back to you. Let's sign on it. And anyone who's experienced real darkness and that experiences real light, the joy is significantly more from someone who's never had to do that, right? Because the light that comes from darkness is 1,000 times brighter and sweeter than the light that didn't. If you take a poor person from the street who built himself up and went out and got a job and then eventually bought a company and became a multimillionaire versus someone who you just handed them the money, it's worlds apart, because I've experienced both of these people in my life, right? Things that are hard, and often we sit and say, why is this so hard, God? Why are you testing me? Why are you making this so difficult? We agreed to it. Hode and I when we first got married, it was one of my jokes. Like when we'd get in arguments or fights sometimes, I'd stop and I'd like, I want to see my contract. I didn't agree to this. Remember, I used to do it all the time. I'm like, God, show me my contract. I didn't agree to this. God, I want to see it. I don't believe it. Like, because life gets hard. But not that it makes it easier, but we agreed. We agreed as a people and as individuals. And you have Balchuvas, and then you even have Gerim. You have people who are converts who are like, God, you could put me in the body in a home of non-Jewish people, and I'm still going to come back to you. We all agreed to these things. And this journey to bring us out of this darkness to the light is painful and it's challenging. But and I could talk to you, and because you know what I'm talking about, there's a little light inside of you that no matter how painful it is, it continues to give you that hope and that strength to get up and fight another day and keep going. And that's that godly soul. That's that contract where we know deep down inside there's good. And we're going to find that. We don't give up. And we keep fighting till we get that good. And when you get a little taste of it, it's refreshing, right? It's refreshing. So, yeah, that was a little bit off on a tangent. Yeah, sure, pleasure. So we'll stop from there because that was a heavy thing we got into, and we'll continue on next time. But Hashem will bless you and all of us on our journey, and as a nation to finally take us out of this darkness and bring us to the real light of Geula, Mashiach. God bless.
Thank you.
Sure, my pleasure.
In the end, the girl that said she doesn't know if she's going to come, she's the only one that's coming.
How are you?
So funny, we're talking. I thought, where is she? I didn't know if she's coming. I hope so. She should have messaged her. No, I was one after another. I didn't tell that person. She doesn't. She's better.
Yeah.
I know she knows.
Slowly,
I
with
I
slowly.
wanted, but I didn't.
Yeah.
I could. She will come. Fine. Good. Okay. No pressure. And who said that is coming? Kind of said she's coming. Funny said she's coming.